friends, it's Kayla. This is my third quarterly update of the year. Time is flying. I still am not liking many things that I'm reading, but here we are. This year is definitely going down in history as like my worst reading year, and I think this was my worst quarter of the year. So that's sad. I always talk about just like some general reading stats and then I pick 5 favorites to share with you. I didn't even have 5-star reads. Like I had to pick some 4 stars. That's how sad my reading life is right now. But I have really high hopes for the last quarter of the year. I think this is my moment. I think it's gonna be great. It has to be great. I feel like I'm just a broken record, and I've probably talked about this so many times this year that like it's just not going well for me. As far as the statistics go, I read 41 things, I think, this quarter, which is pretty typical. For ratings, let's get right into ratings. I gave 2 books 5 stars out of 41. I gave a lot of 4 stars though. Quite a few 3 stars, 4 2 stars, 2 1 stars. For genres, I've read a lot of contemporary. Most of those are taken up by my childhood favorites, which I don't rate. So like technically, if I decided to rate those, maybe those would be 5 stars. I'm not going to talk about those anyway. I read pretty much the same amount of thrillers as fantasy, which are my go-to genres. Some good sci-fi, some nonfiction, horror, romance. Yeah, it was a good mix. And then it was perfectly split half and half between authors that I was reading for the first time and authors that I was revisiting. And then here's a stat I wanted to share just because. And it's books that I read for videos and books that were on my TBR. Because I know that there is this misunderstanding that I don't read things. People think I don't read things that I want to read because I'm always making like weird video concepts and reading a strange selection. But that selection comes from my TBR like 80% of the time. And maybe I just don't do a good job of explaining that. So when people are like, just read things you think you'll like I do. I really do. I'm gonna have to do this stat as like a pie chart. So 32 of the books that I read were on my TBR. There were things that I wanted to read. There were things that I would have picked up for myself regardless of content. There were about 6 books that I read only because they were for a video. Like I never would have picked them up if they didn't show up in like the weird way that I was picking books. And then there's like 3 books that overlap. So it's like I probably wouldn't have read them, but I was cool to read them because they were for a video. I'm not somebody who just like typically picks up a bunch of books that I think are gonna be shitty just so I can shit on them. Once in a while it's okay. So to talk about those 2 ones that I actually gave 5 stars, I don't actually think they're gonna end up in like my favorite books of the year. Not that, like, that's not a diss to them, it's just they got 5 stars like objectively and I don't feel some immense passion, I guess, for them. One of them is Allies. Like this is an objectively great nonfiction book that I recommend to especially teens. It's called Allies. It was sent to me from like the publisher and it was involved in a sponsorship. That's always great when like you love a book that's sent to you. I've talked about it a couple times. I've given the pitch, but to sum it up quickly, it's about allyship and how to be a good ally, but more so personal experiences from YA authors. I'm losing my voice. About times when they were a good ally, when they should have been a better ally, when they needed an ally. And I just always... In a world of pure imagination. I always love things like this.
What?
My husband's home.
Oh.
With my coffee. Thank you kindly. Is that really how you just entered the house? Is that from Willy Wonka? Did you also see Timothée Chalamet? Are you intrigued?
Yeah, after the prequel's gonna be great.
This is the biggest coffee ever.
Cheers.
Cheers. Sorry, I drank it already. Okay, don't mind Rob's clickety clacking in the background now. I really thought I could get this done in like the 5 minutes he was gone. What was I thinking? The other one is a short horror book called Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke by Eric LaRocca. Everybody interprets horror so differently. So like one person's idea of scary isn't somebody else's. So I fear that this one gets like misinterpreted sometimes because it's not like disturbing, like spooky, like I can't turn the page, I'm so frightened kind of story. It's just a generally unsettling, like gross story about these two women in the early 2000s, and they're chatting in a chat room and they both want to do something for the other, and it just gets gross. And then I had to pick a couple 4 stars to talk about. This one was a 4.5. It's The Echo Wife by Sarah Gately. This is why this video is going to be quick, is because like I actually can't pitch these books very well, very thoroughly. Like this one's so short, like this one would be such a spoiler. I've just been telling people that if you like books about clones, if you like domestic thrillers, if you like a little bit of sci-fi, just like pick it up, just like go for it. You don't need to know anymore. It gets very weird. I know a lot of people don't like this, so I don't really know who to try to sell this on. There is a live show. I participated in a book club for this, so I'll link that down below in case you want to watch. But I really liked it. 4.5 stars. Another one that like looks kind of similar, The Need by Helen Phillips. This is a 4-star, and I've told people like I don't recommend this to anybody, and you have not been listening, and I've seen you all reading this and then giving it like 1 star, and you're bringing the rating down on Goodreads, and I told you not to read it.
She told you.
This is like an exhausting read about a mother who is just like talking about breastfeeding. Don't mind the saxophone and the plane. Nobody wants this video to happen.
I think this plane's actually doing circles.
This is another one I just don't really know how to fully explain. It's the exhaustion of motherhood. There is some storyline about different dimensions, but I feel like I have to be really careful about how I describe it because it's not what you'd expect from a book that's about different dimensions. There's a woman and her children, and there's an intruder. I don't know. It was just like the perfect amount of weirdness that didn't try to explain itself, and it was just like, what did I just read? It's not even that the storyline is so weird, it's that like the way the characters interact and react to certain scenarios, that's the weird part. The last one is the one that I probably feel the most passionate about and that I want everyone to read, and that's The Wild Ones by Nafisa Assad. This is a YA fantasy. YA has just not been working for me a lot recently, so I'm so glad that this one did. It's a loose Peter Pan inspired story. There is like a found family. Portions of it are told in my latest favorite writing style, which is first person plural. It's told as like a collective voice of the wild ones. We do have one main character named Paheli, and we get a normal typical first person narrative from her, and then we also get the collective voice of the wild ones, and then we also get little excerpts from each of the girls' individual lives. Paheli has like saved all of them. She's brought them all together. They've all experienced trauma and terrible things in their life, and they just go as a group of empowered women empowering other women and saving other girls. And there's this book of memories that we get chapters of that are the histories individually of these girls. It's really difficult to read at times. It's also really beautiful. The language I love so much. That's about it. The main action of the story kicks off when there is a boy they now need to save, and how that all works. If you want a more upbeat video, I just did my TBR for the last quarter of the year, and I feel very hopeful about all of those titles, so go check that one out if you haven't already. And I'll see you later. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know what your favorite book of the last quarter was, so I know that other people are at least enjoying what they read. That'll make me feel great. Okay, bye.
Goodbye for now to you, my friends. Goodbye for now.
Yeah.
Until we meet again.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?